Hey everyone, it's Jason Pannone, Head of Reference and Cultural Assets Manager here at the East Hartford Public Library. For this week's episode of Raiders of the Lost Archive, I'm going to show you some pictures of a painting that we own in our collection by Dwight William Tryon. Tryon was a noted painter of the late 19th and early 20th centuries, most known for being associated with the tonalist school of painting. And this is a gem of our collection that we happened to find when we were preparing for our renovation several years ago. It's a really neat thing, and I'm going to show you the painting right now, and then after that I'll talk about Tryon and his connection to East Hartford. So this painting shows the Colt Factory on the Connecticut River in Hartford, viewed from the East Hartford side of the river. The painting itself was painted in 1872. So this is a very early work of Tryon. He was born in 1849, so that when he painted this, he was only 23 years old. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about Tryon next. As I mentioned earlier, Tryon was born in 1849 in Hartford, Connecticut. When he was 4 years old, his father died in a hunting accident, and his mother moved him across the river back to the family farm in East Hartford. Now here's where the connection to East Hartford and the library comes into play. Tryon's mother was Delia Roberts Tryon, so she was part of the Roberts family, who were a very wealthy, very prominent family in East Hartford. And the connection to the library is that Delia Roberts was, I believe, the sister of Esther Roberts, or at least related to Esther Roberts, who later became Esther Raymond, the wife of Albert Raymond, who is the man who gave the money to start the East Hartford Public Library back in the late 19th century. And through that Roberts-Raymond connection, the particular painting in question came down to the East Hartford Library. And like I said, we found it in 2013 rather, right before we started our renovation. So it was really, really neat to find when I first found it, or actually rather when one of the custodians found it. He let me know about it, and I thought, oh, it just looks like a print. It's probably not worth very much. But our art consultant took a closer look at it and realized that it's actually a very valuable painting by an artist of some renown, and it just happens to be in our collection. So back to Tryon. Tryon was entirely self-educated through his early 20s. So that painting you see, he had no formal artistic training at all. He basically started working in the Colt Factory, then he moved to a bookstore, and in his spare time started reading books about art and artistic theory and painting, and more or less was self-taught for the very early part of his career. Later, the Cheney family of Manchester, who owned the silk factory, became acquainted with him, and Mr. Cheney actually paid for him to go to Europe for formal training in France in art. So Tryon never returned to East Hartford after he left when he was 14. He spent a lot of time in Europe. He spent time in Northampton, Mass, in New York, traveled quite a bit. And another interesting thing about him is that Tryon eventually became friends with the Freer family, and the Freers were very wealthy industrialists from the Midwest. And Mr. Freer got very interested in his work and bought a number of Tryon's pieces, which now reside in the Freer Gallery at the Smithsonian. So not only is Tryon famous as a painter with the East Hartford connection, but there's a great collection of his work down in Washington, D.C. at the Freer Gallery, in one of the premier art collections in the world. So that's kind of a neat thing about East Hartford, and we are lucky enough at the library to own an early work of his. So if you want to check it out once we reopen, definitely come by. It's in the Rare Books room, and that's open anytime. We just ask if somebody is in the room that you knock, or if you want to make arrangements, you can definitely call us. I'll also post some information about Tryon in the description of the video, so if you want to research him a little more, you can. And with that, I'll end with one final shot of the painting. And please don't mind our cat Odin in the background. He's very curious to see what I'm doing. So thanks for watching. And as always, this is Jason Pannone of the East Hartford Public Library reminding you to practice safe social distancing, wash your hands frequently, please be sure to wear a mask, and we'll see you next time. Have a great day. Bye.